Opening the Charlton Planning Board meeting for May 21st, 2025, Town of Charlton.
Okay, I would like to make a motion to have Bill be the acting chair for the day.
I second that emotion.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Patsy. My name is Bill Fontaine, acting chair for the evening. We have a good agenda to go by. Thank you for joining us tonight and signing in if first on the agenda are a couple of approval not required permits. One is for the Hanson Highland Road. That one is a matter that came before the board previously, and we were waiting for some action by the applicant to clear up the title on the entire property. So we're not going to entertain that approval not required this evening.
Yeah, I was show everybody the plans that we're referring to. I think everybody's familiar with this application, but I just wanted to. Yeah, you did, thank you.
This was the property on the Spencer Charlton line, and there's a bit of uncertainty as to some of the borders, and we were waiting for the applicant to clear that up and clear title and get a redrawing resubmitted to the planning board.
Oh, how you doing, Bill?
Very well. Mr. Hanson, hello.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good.
Yep, my wife stopped by today and we submitted, we had a title search done by an attorney. It was given to Mr. Benson. It was emailed to all relevant parties yesterday. Attorney signed off on it, that we are sole owners based off the plans that was submitted. So I'm not sure where the that's what was asked of me by the town. Thorough title search, and we have a certificate of title. So I really don't understand what at that point where we're still having a discrepancy. I've done what the town has asked me to do. And Mr. Benson was in receipt of the certificate of title today.
Yeah, and everybody looks under their agendas. First item is the email from our attorney.
Yep.
Noting that this really shows that Mr. Hanson owns the property, but does not show, it's not considered a certificate of title. The planning board should not do the application at this time. That was the advice of our counsel.
Yeah, so what's wrong with the certificate of title from my attorney?
From our attorney has said it's simply stating that you own the land, but not anything with any corrective plan or changes to the title, which is what is being challenged here. So the actual delineation of the lot hasn't changed due to the title search.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
So according to this, it keeps referring to lot 5. And the title here, whatever this from your attorney says lot 5, but we're looking at lot 5A and lot 5B. So what are we talking about?
This is what Mr. Hanson proposed. He wants to subdivide lot 5 into 2 lots.
Okay.
That's his ultimate goal, and that's where the issue is.
Oh, so he's
what can
separated.
be done before that happens.
He owns 5A and
Yes.
formerly called 5.
Yeah, it starts off as lot
Okay.
5 and mother lot, then subdivided into 2 lots, 5A and 5B.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Because as it is all one parcel, it's
Mhm.
A and R, but separating it is the problem. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so he's still saying that the title is vague, even though it was a title given by my attorney saying that it's clean. I don't know. I just feel like I'm not getting much information here because your attorney is basically saying that my attorney is incorrect. I just don't understand why this is being pushed so hard. I mean, planning board really doesn't have much jurisdiction on ownership. You know, if that's a legal issue, whoever feels they have interest or anything like that, you know, can take me to land court if they feel that they have interest in that land. I have a title search that states that I own the land. I don't understand why I'm getting a hard time from the planning board about getting a plan endorsed. You know, frontage and accessibility to the way is really, you know, that there's limitations on an A&R endorsement. Ownership, you know, through title search, you know, really isn't requested 99% of the time for an A&R. So I've done what the planning board's asked me. Ultimately, I think that the planning board needs to ask their attorney that, does the town have jurisdiction as a planning board to deny a plan based off what they don't believe is ownership? That's the question. I don't understand why there's so much kickback on this plan, you know, and I'm not trying to ruffle anybody's feathers here, but, you know, I'm just making sure that we're clear that there's limitations on A&R.
Through the chair, what
There's
else?
limitations.
Well, certificate of title, right? Is that what we're waiting for? So we
Yeah.
have a title search, but we don't have the actual certificate of title, and that's the issue.
Yes,
Yeah.
you do. You have certificate of title. States
And
that I own, you know, to that, with those reference plans, that there is no other interested parties. Now, if your attorney believes there is, whoever feels aggrieved by it has every right to take that civil matter to land court. But I don't understand why I'm being pushed around on it when I'm showing you a certificate of title.
Yeah, I think, Mr. Hanson, what the question was around the origin of the boundary lines between Spencer and Charlton, which hasn't really come to light from the title search. I think that's what our attorney has prompted us on, is to investigate, you know, where this was originally created and where the boundary line was originally drawn. He's stating that it hasn't changed in his opinion. So then there's a question of ownership of that entire property, and only the applicant and full, you know, the owner has to own 100% of the property assuredly in order to make a valid application.
I understand what you're saying, but why is my title? I get it, but I just don't understand what he's not giving me the reason. Basically, he's just saying you don't have clear title.
Through the chair, did he see this? Did Mr. Hanson
No, I
receive this?
just received from John Suzuki this afternoon.
Mr. Hanson, the letter from our attorney says, the letter specifically says that it is just relying on the corrective plan. It does not provide any information regarding the back title and how the lot was originally created and how the original reference to the municipal boundary first came about. In my opinion, nothing has changed, and the board would still be within its authority to deny endorsement of the plan. So
if I get a title search, well, so basically, if I get a thorough title search, is what he's saying, and that gets submitted to you, so basically you're saying your counsel is going to look through it and tell me if he believes that I own it, because I'm under the impression that I own it. So now I'm asking you guys why I don't.
And I think it's not only the subject property, Mr. Hans, but also the adjacent properties, of course, into the Spencer line that are probably of concern here.
Yeah, the biggest thing is because that Ether Road was never put in the right place. That's what's throwing all this off. So all those other plans that were made, the 1929 plan that was made for this whole neighborhood's not even recorded. It's not even a recorded plan. So everybody in that neighborhood holds dirty title. I'm just letting you know now, because I know this land like the back of my hand. If your lawyer goes back to the 1929 plan, there is no plan recorded. So that whole entire neighborhood's dirty. it's gray. Well, I wouldn't say it's dirty, but it's gray. So what I'm gonna do is I've ordered Metro Title, but I really need the planning board to let me know that if I submit you guys a full title search, I mean, what's your attorney gonna come back with here? Are we gonna keep going back and forth, or is he just saying that there's no possible way that you have to go to land court? But I don't understand why that would be.
Yeah, we hope that's not the remedy here, and I think we could even have your attorney check in and get that decision from our attorney, but our attorney has stated that it's not only your property boundaries, but the adjacent properties that need to be defined. And that would satisfy you know, as an applicant with 100% ownership of the property.
To the chair, have the two attorneys actually talked?
Yes,
So I don't
Johnson seriously talked to both of
Well,
his.
what happens with attorneys is that you have to understand that all attorneys base everything off opinions, okay? Everything, that's why an attorney always starts a letter says, in my opinion, okay? Because nothing is really black and white. It's in my opinion. So you have to remember that. It's an opinion. It's
I
not
understand.
always fact,
But
okay?
I understand that, but if our attorney says to your attorney, we need X.
Yeah.
Then your attorney can get X and give it to us and then the problem
But
solved.
we're not getting that from your attorney. That's the problem. We've been asking the planning board to give us a clear answer. You know, what is the issue at hand, and let us solve the issue for the board.
That's something our attorney needs to
Yeah.
provide. That's why we're relying on his expertise
Right.
to give us direction on what to do. None of us in this room are qualified to do that. We need legal counsel to guide us
Right.
in this application.
I think maybe our attorney is looking at what has been provided and reacting to it rather than just giving
Right.
descriptive.
Of what he needs.
Yeah, what is needed to
Right.
finally.
That's all I'm looking for. If they tell me what I need, and if I can't provide it, well, you have every reason to deny me, and I would have to go to land court. I'm not saying you guys are wrong. I just need to know what you guys need from me. You know what I mean? If your attorney
Yep.
emails me and says, listen, this is what I need from your attorney, and have them forward it to me. If you can't meet these
Right.
regulations, they can't sign it off. You have to go to land court. Okay, no problem.
Yeah,
But I'm not going to play guessing games. You know what I mean?
yeah, let's do that, and we'll get in touch with our attorney.
Okay, that's fine.
Have them delineate exactly what is needed to resolve this.
I think at this time yes, you should deny endorsement of the plan, which just means you're not without prejudice, which
Yeah.
means you're not doing it tonight. It may happen a later date, so he can, if it comes to that, he may be able to use the same plan, not come up with a new
Yeah,
plan.
okay,
But that way, the planning board has to take action on it.
Yeah.
And if we don't take action, it could be automatically
Okay,
approved. So if we deny endorsement of the plan without prejudice,
can
it
come back.
keeps Mr.
Okay. I do have
Hansen's
one more question.
opportunity to even use the same plan.
So,
Mr.
Mr. Benson, can I email you, and then basically you can forward that email to Mr. Silverstein, and I can get my attorney also involved on this, so I don't want to keep coming back to the board and asking questions thinking I'm solving the problem. If the problem's not solved, I need to know what the issue is, so we'll go from there. I mean, I think that's the best way.
absolutely, let's do that.
Can I ask
All
one
right.
question?
All right,
Another-
thank you very much.
All right,
Okay, thank you.
thanks, Mr. Hanson, thanks. Good, go ahead.
I saw a zoning board of appeals meeting and this was talked about. So do we know the outcome of that?
Yeah,
I just,
number of different properties.
he brought up
been
this
working
lot
with,
5
so-
though.
Yeah,
on-
but that's a different
Different?
matter, than.
It doesn't
what
affect the
he's
A&R?
working at.
That does not affect the A&R?
Well,
No,
it's
it's
just sub.
it's about access to the property on a paper road and, getting the,
Okay,
certain things have to be followed, because even though it can be a private road, the planning board is the one that has the authority to approve the use of that private road. And so, he'll be working on that later, but right now he's trying to get this resolved so that he knows how to move forward, so
Okay,
Okay.
he's not touching that,
Got it.
right, that's on hold right now.
okay.
Got it.
I have one question before we move on. Have the two attorneys simply just talked to each other?
We just
Yes,
asked
they
that.
have,
Yeah,
he's
Did
had
ask
two
that while I
different
was out,
attorneys,
perhaps.
Mr.
Yeah.
Silverstein's talked to both of them.
great.
And if they just talk to each other, probably
Yeah.
there wouldn't be a terminology issue.
Yeah, that may happen, right?
I would hope so. Thank you.
Yes,
We need a motion for denial of the application
Without prejudice.
without.
I make a
yeah,
motion,
deny without prejudice, so
we
they keep.
deny
application.
the Hanson Helen Road A and R without prejudice.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny without prejudice, the approval not required on Hanson Highland Road. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous, thank you. The second, we have another approval not required for the Gothier J. Davis Road property.
Yeah. We have. Property on there. Yeah. Basically creating a new lot. And moving a lot line so that. They're creating a new lot here and then they're gonna be combining these two lots. At some point in time, so the A and R is basically to create one new lot.
So as long as when you combine a lot, you don't make another lot non-conforming, because you can't make,
Right.
right?
What's that?
You can't create non-conforming lots.
This
The-
won't create a non-conforming lot by moving.
Right, well, lot B is a conforming lot.
Oh, okay.
He has 175 feet of
Parcel.
frontage, 2/3 upland. Lot,
Wait a minute.
Lot,
This is B, right?
parcel.
yeah,
Oh, lot B.
these two lots are going to
Oh, I
be
see.
combined into one lot. And then this lot will remain
lot
as
be
it
one lot.
is. So these two lots. Are gonna be combined into one lot,
And take the frontage from this one.
yeah.
175 feet, okay?
And then this is B. Oh, I was confusing parcels too.
So is this just gonna come up to like here again? To,
Yeah, but the biggest thing he's trying to do is where Lori's
This
figure
one?
is, he
yeah,
wants to create that lot. And it does have the proper frontage, it does have the proper area. So that it will be a legally existing building lot.
It's good. Any discussion on it?
So we're only, this is the only thing tonight that.
Yeah, it should be right in some of the notes, the plan notes should kind of describe the intent and which lots. Good, do we have a motion for this property?
I make a motion, we accept the Gothier J Davis Road A and R.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
There's a few things on here. That's not just that.
Mhm.
A is to be joined and annexed with 45. So that, are we also
Yeah,
approving that
that's-
tonight?
Yeah, he has to put notes like, not only is he creating that lot about the other lots as
Parcel
well.
A and B are not buildable.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure that.
yeah,
Yeah,
well, that's it. This is actually the second try, cause I have to go through that the first time,
Oh,
and
okay.
he was missing information, so. He went back and corrected
Did he?
it, and
Yeah.
resubmitted
Yeah.
it, so,
and got it stamped by the end.
Okay.
yeah.
All right, all in favor, of the approval for the Gothier J. Davis Road?
Aye.
I'm abstaining. I don't know enough about it.
Can we vote, Patsy, on this?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Aye. Good, thank you.
Just signing it isn't enough, though.
Special permit.
The next item on our agenda is 7 o'clock is a public hearing for the cellular modification for doggy daycare. We're not going to be opening that particular piece on the agenda. Is anyone here for that? Okay. There's some, that will be rescheduled to June 4th. Okay.
No, she didn't.
Leonius abstained.
Just have a break.
Oh,
The next is a public hearing for our GM Properties LLC, The Villages, 35 North Main Street. Thank you for the content. Thank you for your preparation.
you have to read the public notice, and I think that gentleman took it.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Is a notice of public hearing in accordance with sections 203, 205, 207, and 207.2, the Charlton zoning bylaw. The Charlton Planning Board will hold public hearing on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, 7 p.m. via Zoom meeting ID number and in person at 37 Main Street, Charlton, on request of GM Properties LLC, 234 Spring Street, Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, for site plan and special permit application to construct multifamily housing for a total of 40 units and a total of 8 buildings. Property currently has a single-family home on it. The property contains approximately 6 acres. The property is located at 35 North Main Street and L. Stevens Road in Charlton, Massachusetts. Property ID is Assessor Map 35, Block C, Lot 9, zoned in the Village District. This meeting, the Charlton Planning Board conducted in person and via remote participation. Specific information and guidelines for remote participation on all the parties to attend this meeting and found at Town of Charlton website for this meeting. Members of the public who watch and listen may do so in the following manner. And there's a video link for the Zoom meeting, a meeting ID, the phone access, and copies of this and all site applications are available for inspection at Planning Board office and the Town Clerk's office during regular business hours. Any person interested shall appear at the time and place designated. Charlton Planning Board.
I'm James Tatro,
Yeah.
previously engineer on the project.
Yeah.
Also with me is Josh Smith, project attorney, and he wanted to, he will begin the presentation.
So I'll kick
Thanks,
things off.
Counselor,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, for the record, Joshua Lee Smith. I'm an attorney with law firm of Bowditch and Dewey. And we are here to present this project. We understand that there's a peer review memo that's been circulated, and James has provided some responses to that, and I believe the peer reviewer provided some responses to his responses. So we understand that we're thank you for allowing us to open tonight. We just wanted to give an initial presentation, allow the board to get a feel with respect to the project scope, answer any initial questions that the board may have, and then in talking to Randy, I think the thought was that we would continue to work with the peer reviewer on some of these outstanding peer review comments, and then come back to the board, hopefully, with all of those items resolved. One thing I would request is, can I share through Zoom? I
Yeah,
can't see.
you'll be able to share.
Yeah. course, someone, does anyone know how to share? I'm
Is it-
On the
is it
green arrow at the
open?
bottom.
Oh, at the,
Share.
oh, let's see here. Excellent. Okay.
All right, we'll share.
So, just to get your bearings, and I'm sure the members are more familiar with this site than I am. This property is about 6 acres in size. I think I had mentioned that it is within the village's, district or the village district. It's, as you can see, it's mostly unimproved. There is a small, residential property or a residential building, that is currently located on the site. But the vast majority of this 6 acre lot of land is unimproved. Jumping ahead, this is the layout of the project. And while I want to underscore, like I said, most of the lot is unimproved. You can see that large swath of land between the two proposed areas for development will remain unimproved. So there's a large swath of land that is currently wetlands. And so the project is staying out of the wetlands area. So we did want to underscore that a significant portion of the 6 acre site will be preserved with respect to the wetlands that are situated there. So what GM Properties is proposing to do here is to develop a site for 40 residential units. These units are going to be townhouse style in nature, and we've got some elevations that we can share in a moment. They will, there's essentially two areas of the site, two access driveways coming off of L. Stevens Road, as well as two access points that will be coming off of North Main Street. And so, as you can see, the units are segregated and separated, again, separated between that large area of wetlands. With respect to the parking will comply. So the local zoning bylaw requires, I think it's 2.25 spaces per unit. Again, there's 40 units. So in total, if you do that math, minimum requirement with respect to parking is 90 parking spaces. So for each one of these townhouse units, there will be an interior garage that will serve as one of the parking spaces, and then an exterior driveway serving that unit that will serve as the second parking space. In addition to that, and so if you do that math, that's 40 parking spaces. And then there's additional parking spaces that are located, is my mouse?
Yep.
Yeah, so there's 3 other additional areas, we call them satellite parking spaces, that are located not in front of any particular unit. So we've got 4 spaces here, another bank of 3 spaces here, and then another bank of 3 parking spaces here. So in total, we've got the 80 that are located in front of each of the units, plus there's 10 so-called satellite spaces making up the 90. So we are in compliance with the parking. This plan, you can see to some extent, there's going to be quite a bit of new landscaping that's going to be proposed, a wide variety, diverse mix of plantings that are going to be proposed, along with shade trees that will really help beautify the site and enhance the site. This is obviously a pretty high profile site in terms of the roadway network and these 2 streets intersecting each other. And there'll be quite a bit of new green space based on new plantings that will be provided along the roadside as well as interior to the site. There are just in total, with respect to these 40 units, it will be about 48,000 square feet. The total number of buildings here is 8. Did want to underscore here, as well in terms of walkability. There will be, and this was not entirely part of the initial project design, but there will be a network of sidewalks that will be installed by the developer along both L. Stevens Road, which would come along here to the edge of pavement, and if my mouse runs out of space here, but it essentially comes to the point of the improved layout, and then along the entirety of North Main Street up to the point of the other access point. So there's quite an investment that the developer is willing to provide with respect to sidewalks that will be improved along the town's two public ways. Just quickly, in terms of noise, light, traffic, this is based on 40 units. This really is a modest development, we would say, especially for 6 acres. There really will be no material negative impact with respect to noise and light and traffic based on ITE data. There really is going to be pretty minimal impacts in terms of traffic generation resulting from this development. I'm going to pass it over to James, and he's going to do a little more context with it.
Could I ask you a question?
Yes.
Would you say 2.4?
The parking,
Yes.
I think it's 2.25.
The regulation is 2.25.
Okay.
Which times 40 makes 90 required. And as Josh said, each of the 40 units will have 1 garage space and an outdoor space. So each of the 40 has 2, that makes 80. In addition, 10 so-called satellite parking spaces separated from any
Okay,
particular.
so you're counting the ones inside the premises.
Yeah,
And just, I'm sorry, before James advances, so this right here is what James has been kind enough to hold. So a little more colored depiction. Generally, you can see where sort of the open spaces are being preserved and enhanced with the landscaping that I had discussed previously. And then this is a rendering, a 3D rendering, you can see from 2 points of view. This is from L. Stevens Road. So here is quite set back from the street, but you can get a general sense of the style and design of these dwellings. And this is from the other side, North Main Street. You can see again the general design of these buildings. And then we've got the elevations here.
So one entrance North Main Street, right? Just.
Correct. I think Josh
Yeah.
spoke at one point saying 2 entrances onto North Main
Got
Street,
it,
but
got
there's just the one.
Right.
One, and then there's one that's sort of at the intersection of both, correct?
Well,
Is that
it is
L.
really L.
Stevens?
Stevens.
L. Stevens, okay,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
Gotcha.
Good point.
I hear you. Yeah.
So I would just want to give you some updates as to how things changed since the initial filing. And I want to then also ask the sentiment of the board in regard to a couple of the issues cited by the peer reviewer. Most of his comments, you have a typo here that says this, it should say that. There's a lot of fairly easy ones, but there are a couple issues where we would want to, I think, get the sentiment of the board as to how we would best respond to his comment. But just to update you, we were just recently in front of the Conservation Commission, and we've made changes to the plan pursuant to actually a couple of the meetings there, where in a few areas where we were closest to the wetlands, we moved walls. There are, I think, 5 points where we moved walls, and I think in one case we added a wall
You did.
in order to get some greater separation off the wetlands at the request of the commission. One of the other changes was, since the very first filing, is that it was raised by the building inspector. And I see a gentleman with a fire logo on his
Our
jacket there.
representative is here.
And that was in regard to that, saying, because this drive goes all the way through, there's no question of the vehicle getting in or out. At Olga Lane, I think Mr. Meskis asked that we do something for a turnaround at the end, and we provided a turnaround there.
Which
We
wasn't on that
extended
drawing,
the-
yeah,
Yeah, and you can see
Yeah.
well, from the landscape view that he showed.
Yeah.
The drive ended here,
Right.
We extended it, added the turnaround for a 3-point, and did that per, I think it's your regulation regard to a common driveway, had a specification about how long this should be, and
Mhm.
but we're certainly willing to work with the fire department
Mhm.
if they now have a different or better idea of
Mhm.
how they would like that done.
Right. Yeah.
So that was a significant.
Luckily not running into the wetlands there, so you have a lot of room.
Oh, yeah,
to,
yeah, there was
Change
some extra
yeah,
space.
the hammerhead there, yeah,
Yeah.
good.
So those were, I think, the sort of biggest changes in regard to the plan since the initial filing. But I just wanted to touch on a couple of the comments from the peer reviewer where there's a couple where he's putting forth a idea of what he thinks should be the standard. I don't actually see that's necessarily as he suggests in the plan, or in the regulations, excuse me. And we wanted to, and there are different ways to deal with things, and I wanted to see what the sentiment was.
So specifically like the lane width.
Exactly,
Yeah,
that was.
right.
You're anticipating my every word.
So I
So-
think that a lot of the concern with
Yeah.
that is probably just like guest parking.
Yeah.
They're just gonna wanna park in the lane, and now you've squeezed it down to a 10-foot lane or something, you know?
And people will, they'll be like, 4th of July weekend, and then
Yeah.
like, they'll have parties and then it'll be obstruction for, if there is an emergency
Sure.
for people.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, one way to try and better deal with that is to provide more satellite parking
Satellites,
spaces.
yeah.
Another also is that what we were looking at is, yeah, in really the couple spots where there were units on both sides of actually widening the drive in those locations. In order to
Yeah,
such that, because if one is driving along here and there's really only the possibility of car coming out on your right side if you're heading this way,
mm,
then the width and the perceived safety and the actual safety is probably more easily considered adequate than if you're coming through here and there's a potentially car on either side.
yeah, yeah.
So that was one of them.
Mm,
And there's, as I say, there's a couple different degrees of remedies
Yeah.
that we can apply to that. One is to, if the suggestion is that a objection to the width as well, if you have extra cars
mm,
parking there, then, you know, that won't feel, that might not feel adequate. If we provided extra parking spaces
Yeah,
and we widened, especially where there were
mm,
units on both sides, I guess the question is the sentiment of the board that may be an adequate way of addressing that, because honestly, we just went back
Yeah.
in the regulations
Mm.
for the village district before, and we were trying to see, was there a
Mm.
specific thing that we missed? That it said,
Mhm.
oh, no, you've got to be 22, or you've got to
Right.
be 20. And I don't see that there's a specific,
it may be silent,
yeah,
Yeah.
and which leaves somebody to be a discretionary
Right, right, right.
part of the board.
right?
And
So I think I mean, the squeeze here is obviously the Olga Lane, you go any closer to that, Mr. Tetra, then you're touching the wetlands property. But if we could extend the wetlands property, I mean, can you push into that zone and widen that Olga Lane stretch?
if the question is, could we widen Olga Lane?
Yeah,
I would think 2 feet to the,
yeah,
let's say to the far side away from units 30 through 34. And 2 feet, on the outside here toward the wetland side could be accommodated.
yeah.
The only, I
Is
mean,
there a
we have a
wall?
retaining
Is
wall
that a
here
retaining wall?
anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if the conservation commission will
Yeah,
hear
yeah.
me say this, but it's not a huge difference having a
Yeah.
wall 6 feet away instead of 8 feet away.
Right.
But
you can't, what are the guidelines? You can't touch the boundary,
Where-
wherever that may be?
the
Yeah.
town's guideline is to try and keep development at least 25 feet away.
Mm,
Now, there are a number of locations where we're within that,
Mm.
and we're trying to do, and as I say, we already proposed to the commission multiple spots here.
yeah,
Well, those were 3 of them. where we were gonna change the
Yeah.
grading and in another case, add a
Yeah.
retaining wall to gain a little more separation.
So do you have any waivers or do you see appeals needed for this design right now?
Regarding the Conservation Commission?
Yeah.
I think the answer is no.
No, right now, no, yeah.
The literal, governing regulation in
Hmm.
regard in the town is the Wetlands Protection Act,
Mhm.
which would allow
Yeah,
the
okay.
proximity
Yeah,
of
yeah.
work as
Good.
proposed.
Nicely
We're trying to
designed, yeah.
be sensitive to
Yeah.
the commission's desires
Yeah.
and as I say, in at least the 5 instances already proposed.
Yeah.
Of moving things.
It's creative. I mean, it's a shame. It's such a nice big property, but you just can't touch a lot of it.
Well, from this coloring,
Yeah.
everything in this
Yeah.
green is wetland.
Right.
So, that's out,
Yeah, right.
and that's
And you're
fine.
squeezed to the
It's,
edges, yeah.
you know, I grew up in Southbridge,
Yeah.
nearby, and
Mhm.
we had woods behind us, always did. And to me, that's natural. I see some, neighborhoods in Worcester where Josh and I have both worked. And I think, my God, there'd be a house there and a house there, and I imagine it feeling claustrophobic.
Mhm. Yeah,
These units would all have woods
yeah.
off to the side, the
Mm,
unit off here is gonna be some ways away.
Yeah. yeah.
It's.
Yep.
The restriction. It forces, I think, a reasonable, separation fence.
Yeah.
Forces cluster zoning.
In a way, yes, yeah.
How wide are these driveways gonna be?
It's proposed to be 20 feet from curb to curb, from base of curb to base of curb. And, do we wanna talk about the general restriction one way or one way or,
Um,
you know?
yeah, possibly, there's, one potential
Mm.
alternative.
Another way that a lesser width is often made, is can be palatable is with one-way travel.
Yeah.
Almost every town that has detailed, regulations in regard to parking areas, allows a lesser width of driving aisle if
Yeah.
traffic is one way.
Right.
Um,
Obviously, that would only pertain to
Would
Nicholas,
pertain-
Nicholas Drive.
Right,
Yeah.
council, yeah.
If
I hear
there's
you.
questions with respect to Old Bay,
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Please, go ahead.
So obviously, a developer, you want a maximum build out that you can.
Sure.
It looked like your notes here, one of the driveways was 13 feet long, and I believe
Oh,
our
there's one.
consulting engineer was concerned.
We actually show on every driveway, we show the pavement more than a simple one-car width. For
Okay,
instance, all these units are 20 feet wide. For instance, I'll pick one out right here. Unit number 8, the pavement shown in front of it, is actually 16 feet wide. If you go to the one that had the pavement of the shorter width, yes, at the 16 feet edge over here, yeah, it is shorter. But actually, at the other end of the 16-foot wide driveway, it's actually perfectly fine. But we were looking at moving units, shuffling them to address that, to gain a greater width. And I may maybe even doing a little reshaping of the driveway here
okay,
to,
so worst case scenario, would you be open to maybe reducing by one townhouse on a couple of units to gain the excess parking that might be a concern? I mean, obviously you want 40, but is it palatable and for us to
No,
require
we need the
38?
space. We can't design bad things. We can't allow bad things to get through, so we expected it to be 21 feet as is for all the driveways.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's safety. It's not
Right.
appearance, it's safety. And the width of the road, I'm like unwilling to, Charlton is the home of narrow roads. We want to keep them all safe, so I said,
Mhm.
I'm not okay with the tightness.
and just as, to circle back in regard to the width. As if you read the latest comment from Michael Andre de Graves, what we said in an earlier response was that part of our trying to make the width satisfactory was also trying to reduce speed on the road. Via speed bumps at each entrance point and signage indicating 15 mile per hour speed on this driveway. And that
Yeah,
does
because you
go
will have
some way
people
towards-
walking, because it doesn't look like you have a whole lot of open space for recreation or for the property owner to have a picnic table. I'm trying to see how much green space, because it is wet behind it. So I'm not sure that the owners would be able to utilize anything back there. So you'll have more pedestrians walking to get maybe block parties as opposed to on the grass. I see some grassy area on that section on the left before the wetlands, yeah, closest to you,
Sure,
there and then behind it,
here between units.
you do,
Over
okay.
here, over in this area. Probably if, even if this turnaround is there, that is easily utilizable as
Some
a,
green,
picnic,
Mhm.
area, but, you know.
and these won't be rentals, you're selling, sorry, go ahead.
Is that the only common outdoor area?
We really didn't indicate a specific activity or recreational area on the plan. We were just showing, the different surfaces, on this plan, untouched, white, grass, the light greens, wetlands. And you can see further on, as Josh was showing on the landscaping plan, where specific tree and shrub plantings are.
And there
how
are
much-
decks along for each
Okay.
of the units.
Oh, yeah.
We're just from Charlton and we like grass.
I can't tell the
We
depth, but I
we
guess.
actually have to, that was one of the comments from the building inspector. Saying, I'm not sure that you've got, you're matching the height of the building with the separation of each building with the separation between them. And actually, that's just been done on the plans, but it will be, I believe, 31 change feet is the height. So it has to be, probably be 32 feet, just over 32 feet between buildings in those spaces.
And
Did you mention height? What, sorry, I didn't hear you say the height.
Yeah.
30,
It's 32 feet from the front.
Yeah.
Approach, from looking at these from North Main Street.
So do you foresee those spaces being usable by the tenants as outdoor recreation
Oh, sure.
areas?
Sure, if somebody, you can easily imagine if someone in, pick a unit out, number 13, had children that they would plan.
We have a Randy question. I thought we do 5 foot,
Right.
it's 4 foot. It goes along Elsteen's. I thought we do 5 foot.
Yeah, well, it's actually just passed, the town meeting that now sidewalks will have to be 5 feet.
So yeah, the sidewalks need to be 5 feet.
That was just passed at our town meeting on Monday night.
Okay,
So
That's-
they changed it to 5 feet with drainage.
that's fine. We made the sidewalks in front on North Main Street 5 feet.
Right.
I've had already, each on these is 4, but we can make them 5. And it actually brings a point to mind, that you have we're gonna actually have to have the surveyor come in and create a little parcel in this triangular parcel in this area. Right at this point, right here, right now, actually, the traveled way, the pavement that someone would drive on actually extends onto this property. Because the actual pavement of L. Stevens Road doesn't sort of follow in the center here. You can see this is this dashed dot line here and here, these are the two sides of the pavement. It actually cuts the corner and gets onto this property. Sorry, we didn't pay enough attention to that before. We will end up making a parcel over here, which will be donated to the town such that the traveled way and in the future, the sidewalk over here are entirely in the right of way and not on this property.
Thank you.
Well, we dealt with this on another site
Yeah.
too, and the board in that case was very welcome to it, but the developers also thinking, oh my God, if somebody trips and falls and
Yeah.
has their car accident in exactly that location.
Yeah. Yeah, they're on your property. Yeah, yeah.
Yes, it's like, you know, are you,
Mm.
subject to the slip and fall,
Yeah.
claim or something? One other item I wanted to, discuss from the comments of the peer reviewer and get the sentiment of the board is that, he noted that, the units on Olga Lane are proposed to have E1 units to pump up to, the proposed gravity sewer connection, from the upper drive, out to the intersection. And what we had shown that, showed that force main doing is, again, there's no sidewalk on L Stevens here now. We would be putting a sidewalk in, and we said, well, we're already working there. We said, well, we'll show the, proposed force main under that sidewalk. That way it's in an area that's already gonna be worked. You know, the limit of work is not changing. He, in his comments said that, you know, it may not be the board's preference to have, to have that force main in the right of way. Our alternative, it is possible, but we were trying to avoid a wetland alteration. The only way to stay on the property and get to sewer manhole over here, is to do a temporary alteration of the wetlands, and we were trying to avoid that.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that's an issue where we would
Mhm.
seek out the sentiment of the board
Mhm.
to see how we should try to
Right,
deal
right,
with that. If it is acceptable to the board that the E1 connection, you know, follows the sidewalk path for connecting
Right.
to the proposed sewer manholes, that's, is our preference, we'll do that. If the board simply doesn't find it acceptable, you know, we have another way to address it, which we'd rather not do, but we could.
Right, right, right.
I think we rely on our sewer and water commission and the highway department. If they find it satisfactory to run on the sidewalks, then, you know,
Yeah.
they're the ones that have the expertise and have to deal with it should something break. So,
20 years down the line, they'll be the ones picking up the phone.
right, so I think we rely on their feedback on what they prefer to be done. If they have found with it having it under the sidewalk, then
There were a couple issues where Mr. Meskis suggests you speak to the sewer and water department and see what their preference is about this or that. And that would, I think, just be one more issue to having that conversation.
right.
And that was for water and sewer?
Just the sewer,
Okay,
just the E1 pumps for these units we were showing the force main line going under the sidewalk, the new sidewalk
yeah,
beside L Stevens.
and water is provided
Water will simply be coming off of L Stevens.
right in
to-
front of L
Yeah,
Stevens.
straight in, and water to these units would be coming off L Stevens here.
Okay.
There was the suggestion early on,
Yeah.
I think in a pre-filing, meeting with Randy and Mr. Meskis, that the town definitely wanted, service to these units to come
Yeah.
from L Stevens rather than having a water connection and a water connection and a water, you know,
Mhm.
having
Yeah,
20, breaks in the
Yeah.
pavement on North Main Street.
and then where do you bring your water and sewer? Is it under the paved
This-
lanes?
The sewer for Nicholas Drive, comes down the middle of the drive
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then goes off the drive to
Okay.
connect to existing sewer
Yeah, yeah.
manhole, by the intersection of L Stevens and
Yeah.
North Main.
And how about Olga? So,
Olga, again, each unit would have an E1 pump unit, and that,
each unit, yeah.
and it's really about an inch and a half. It's surprising how much small diameter it can be. Line would be under the sidewalk, going up and connecting to,
Under the lane, under the paved lane, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
It would be 5
Yeah.
feet down.
Yeah.
Under that new sidewalk.
Right.
You know, but again, in the footprint of what's already gonna
Okay.
be altered,
Got it.
for putting in the sidewalk.
All right,
I have a question too. I see an existing home on L Stevens Road.
Yep.
What is that distance from that home to that property boundary?
And, I'm making sure I got the right scale. Very scale. It is. It's either 12 or 13 feet
And,
somewhere.
and is the bylaw 10 for a side buffer?
Yeah.
It is in the village district. I'm not sure if that's also the village district.
Residential.
There is, okay.
Would you be willing to do any kind of visual mitigation for the butter? So a few arborvitae, something.
And or fence,
Yeah.
solar fence.
Something just.
Yes.
push- That's kind of a big change for her with the height of those units. If it was a single family home, you're just dealing with 2 stories, but
We would be willing to do either of those. It's,
okay, I know
Whatever.
we'll let
I
them
mean, you talk
talk.
about seeing woods behind your house,
Mhm.
and all these people will now be able to see woods, but she's gonna now see apartments. And that's a huge, huge detriment. Somebody.
What's the address?
36 South Stevens Road.
36. Yeah.
do, while we're here and we're talking about it, you know, again, arborvitae or fencing was mentioned. Did you have a preference for what you would wish to see as, have as a visual buffer?
Trees would be better.
Well-
Rather trees than.
They get higher than an 8-foot
They,
fence.
they get higher, but they're not great, visual buffer, especially, again, we just got
Like
to, the leaves
green.
are out now, but think
Well,
back to. a month ago.
evergreen.
Can we do both? Put a fence
Evergreen.
and green, so
Um,
that there's a light and a buffer from.
Sure, I think we could do that, and, you know, we may end up having. Yeah, I think we would try and put a fence right on the line,
'Cause you're
and,
really.
and
That's good.
trees actually on
Fence up.
our side beyond it.
Yeah, so for visual mitigation, I used to work on a power line projects and they had green giant arborvitae's.
Yeah.
You know, and a good caliper, so they don't have to wait 20 years to get
Oh, yeah.
visual mitigation. And they're good on snow road, and you don't have to trim them, they just go.
Our landscape architect was calling for those everywhere in one town. They didn't like them because they said they were not true native species. But they were his favorite also.
Good.
So, yeah.
So you, okay, I'm sure they'll have
Sounds
some.
like we're amenable to that.
Excellent.
Now,
So
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna try to summarize here and get some public comments, so. 22 feet on the roadways, if we can squeeze it in at least. I would even go as far as to knock off one unit and put it on Olga Lane and sweep that corner on the left-hand Nichols Drive entrance. To make a better radius and
It
not
only
so
give you
much of
5
a
and
stop.
5, so it couldn't connect.
Well, like I say, we've already, in response to, we haven't finished the revisions, but
Yeah.
we're already. Shuffling all these units further over to the extent that, you know, if you picture this unit in the position of that.
Yeah.
Then you have a much
There
greater
you go.
distance.
Right. And you could accommodate that. You could just
I
maybe
believe
push
so,
more.
yes.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
And Jim, I just can make one comment. You said something about maybe on the option of one-way traffic. If you chose to do that, I would just recommend you speak with both our fire department and police department on which one way would be the
Yeah.
safest, you know, way.
Traffic wise, I would guess that they would want the out to go to L Stevens. There's already an intersection there, and that would be no new intersection or points of traffic coming out to North Main Street. But, you know, it's, maybe they have a different sense of it. And we'll check.
Well, that's only if you explore that option, yeah, you go only one way.
Does the board have a preference?
If it would. Briefly, just if we're gonna do a one-way, then we would go L Stevens and go out onto North Main.
Okay.
For us to be able to go that way and then to try to get out onto North. L Stevens and then try to take a right onto North Main would be nearly impossible versus. Us taking a right onto L Stevens and then taking a left into the driveway. The other concern that I have, and I wasn't here for this, I'm here for some other reason, but Nichols Lane, is that the proposed name?
We actually, the building inspector
Yeah.
said he didn't like Nicholas because there's a Nichols
Correct,
somewhere else in town.
Yeah, good idea.
Come up with a different
Yeah.
That was
Joey Lane or something.
We caught that.
So, but that's all I have. No, I'm not Joey.
Good, yeah, thank you for your
Yeah.
comments, perfect, yeah, glad you're here.
I have a question on you, just is it gonna be like snow removal in the winter where you only got a 22-foot driveway there? so you don't end up at a one-way? Or if it is gonna be a one-way, I mean, you know, as far as travel and is also far as if an emergency vehicle's gotta get in there.
Where is it
Sure.
going?
Yeah.
Right, where's the snow going?
Sure,
Right.
well, I just want to point out, part of that too is just to note, you know, these are not, streets to be taken or accepted by the town. This will, still remain in private ownership, and it will be the owner's, responsibility to keep those lanes clear.
Right, but you can't put the snow in the wetlands.
No.
So where does the snow go when it gets, private or
That's
not?
what, I mean,
That's-
cause if everybody's, they're responsible for it, will an emergency vehicle be able to get in there? I know
That was actually, one of the peer reviewers' comments. He said, add specific indications on the plan to where there should be snow storage.
Good, thank you.
And just, you know, briefly, one of them was off the, at least one of the satellite parking areas off the end of, the end of the driveway, the very end of the.
Excellent. All right, any other comments? I'd like to open it up to the public.
I think, sorry, I'm Ashley Briscoe, 32 L Stevens Road. I, despite a lot of the building, a lot of development happening on very small parcels of land and squeezing everything in, I think you guys have addressed a lot of those concerns. The parking, the driveway, I can also picture people coming through to get around
Absolutely.
that L Stevens Road intersection because it's terrible.
Right.
I think you guys are really underestimating the traffic that goes down that road. And from somebody that lives on that road, I've called the police office every 3 months because of how fast people are speeding down that road. 18-wheelers, there's a blind hill, it's crazy, and trying to turn right on that is a nightmare. So when you're adding people coming in on one side and essentially a blind spot, if you're standing right on that corner and you're looking down, you can't see down that road to make that turn. So truly, to make this work, I mean, you'd have to completely redo that intersection, I think, to make it ultimately safer. You need to add lights. You need to totally blow that out so that people that are going up and down L Stevens, they're flying first of all, but they can stop and get safely left and right onto North Main Street, because you really can't take a right turn there. And adding that driveway is going to make that even worse.
Do we have that visual of turning the turnout, the elevation and stuff?
Hard to
We
see,
didn't-
the elevations are plotted, but
It's
not.
not a
pictures, yeah.
traffic
Yeah.
study or anything, but
No.
I'm not sure actually if it warrants a traffic study or not, but obviously the turnouts have to be safe. Maybe we need to get highway,
Yeah,
we need to have them take a look.
I think there was mention of a traffic study, so this may be a good call to do something like that. Not for the counts, but so much as the
Safety,
visibility
yeah.
and
Yeah.
entrance.
I mean, you wanna put sidewalks pretty much just on a corner, and that really does nothing for anybody but people that live there, right? There's no sidewalks down L Stevens to walk safely down L Stevens.
Someday there might be, but this is a start, so that don't,
Yeah. But I mean,
sidewalks are good.
if they're gonna put this in my backyard, I'm the other abutter. If, no, other side.
Oh.
So,
So it's your main.
yeah, I mean, to the point, I used to be able to walk my kids down the road in the stroller to get to the sidewalks, now I cannot. So, you know, one of the things that you guys talked about when you first proposed this project was that you guys were gonna be good neighbors. Putting something right behind somebody's house is not great neighbors. Only allowing sidewalks on a very small portion of the road and not really extending it to the additional neighbors on the road. Not so much. You know, having driveways that now make a really unsafe road more unsafe. These are all things that. I mean, those are big things for us. We're on there every single day. You guys look at numbers and you guys aren't out there. It's a problem.
We deal with this all the time, so there's
Yeah.
that balance,
lot
right?
of it.
Of
There,
course.
there's landowners and they need to be able to profit and develop their land, and then there's residents, so there's a balance.
Of course.
And that's our job, is to help
Yeah.
strike
Yeah.
that balance,
Yeah.
so we understand all
Yeah,
of
there's
that.
not a lot to walk to, you know what I mean? Like we need areas for small business in this town.
Mhm.
There's not a lot of places for
Mhm.
people to put small businesses. And we are adding houses and we're not adding spaces for business, for anybody to go to. Where are we walking to?
Yeah.
We're walking nowhere.
Mm.
You can't walk to Ted's, you can't walk to McDonald's,
You
that's
can't walk
miles
Route
away.
20.
Yeah.
You can't, people are just gonna go to CVS
Mm.
for the Colony Farms. That's where, if any of them have teenagers, that's where all of them are
Yeah.
gonna hang out. There are no,
Yeah.
this is not, an investment in our town in terms of like growing the business side, like we really have no small business space. And that's
Mm.
Well,
coffee
the-
shops, restaurants.
Well, the
I mean, I
town zone,
agree, but-
in the village zoning
Of
district,
course.
the town had a
Mm.
specific idea and a specific idea of density of development too.
Yeah.
And this is
Mi-
all,
mixed
as
development even.
the, as the building commissioner has
Mm.
opined in his letter with his comments. This meets the density,
Mhm.
frontage and area
Mhm.
set requirements of the district.
I just feel like adding all
Yeah.
of this without adding,
Yeah.
the strain on our schools, the strain on the police and the fire.
Mm.
So sorry, I feel like every time I drive by Overlook, our ambulance is that Overlook, and we don't have. We're adding all of these single family homes, these are, and correct me if I'm wrong, these are still for rent.
Correct.
Okay, so they're not homeowners that are investing in the town of Charlton, they're there. Temporarily, maybe they're staying for a while, but they're paying
Mm.
rent, they're not really investing in the town itself,
So these won't be condos.
no.
I
they're just
mean,
rental.
initially, they're rentals, but who knows in the future? My client may or may not wanna convert them to ownership units. Nothing is set in stone.
The other issue I have is that, I mean, this whole process has been fraught with missteps on their front, and this is a property that's gonna need to be managed. You know, they have private roads, those will need to be managed. They have landscaping, that will need to be managed, and everything from the filing from the beginning has been awful. So. I mean, I don't know how much that shows us the future, of how this property will be managed, if you guys do approve it.
Mhm.
Just from somebody who's been sitting here or calling you guys every other week for the
Mm.
last year and a half, trying to get updates. Conservation, I'm calling their one office
Yeah,
every
yeah.
other week,
Mhm.
so. I don't have a lot of faith that this will be the, shining star that they're
Mhm.
making it out to be.
Mr. Chair, can I respond to that?
Yeah, please.
So I will say that my client, unfortunately, he was intending to be here, and I'm not sure if, through the chair, if either of you have had a chance to actually meet George Markopoulos. So George is the principal of this company, and I can tell you, I am new to this project, so I unfortunately have not been involved with whatever filings we made, and I know that there was some delay. A lot of it, I think, had to do with what the wetlands in the middle right there, and some question with respect to a riparian course of water, but I can tell you unequivocally that the principal, I represent a lot of different developers, from very small family-owned businesses to like public utility companies, to large developers that do large mixed-use urban development projects. George is absolutely towards the top of the list with respect to being responsible, being, he's a sophisticated developer. And you can just look through his portfolio. A lot of it is publicly available. He does projects in many different parts of this region, and he gets it done. There's a lot of projects that for clients that I've represented that have gotten permits, and then they are sitting. They are not getting to construction. They're not breaking ground. George, he gets the permits. He tries to do it quickly and efficiently, working side by side with the town, with the neighbors, and gets it done.
Mhm.
And once they are constructed, believe me, it's his investment, and he will make sure that it is managed to the T. So I don't want to leave that. I understand your reservations. I have no idea what happened. I have very little knowledge of what happened a few months back. That was unfortunate. I don't believe that it was all George's fault. I think there was some, this is the life of a developer. It's never a straight line.
There's a
Never
lot of
straight line.
stakeholders involved with our peer engineer.
I get that, I
Yeah.
just, you know,
Yes.
so far the,
Yeah.
the impression isn't
Right,
great.
So,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, is there a project that your client has now that anyone that has concerns can go look at? Is it similar in design? I know sometimes developers sometimes use the same mold and do multiple.
One thing I can tell you with respect to the architecturals, that we had showed before, the nature and type of of these townhouses. Is a very similar design to other, sites that he's worked on.
So that might help us know.
So, we're happy to share it with Randy, and then if.
That's just,
Or just how the management is.
it's literally the process, and I just have a lot of hesitations. I'm, believe me, sir, I'm not angry, first of all, but like.
Mm.
Of course, you're gonna say good things, and I wanna believe you. Of course, I want this to turn out, if it ends up going through, I want it to work out in the best cases for everybody, but. From what's happened so far, it's been very frustrating as a neighbor that you guys try to say you're good, you wanna be good neighbors too, so. That's a concern until you guys prove it. Then I guess it's, you know, I'm not going, my concerns are really not gonna go away.
Well, through the chair, he's got a portfolio that's been proven at other sites. We can share that with Randy, and then,
Yes, please.
you're welcome to reach out
Yeah.
to Randy to talk about that. And as I said as well, not every developer has one-on-one outreach to neighbors. If you haven't met with George, I'm guessing that he'd be more than happy to meet with you and sort of discuss some of these issues that you've raised.
If
last
you
thing
could
I-
share that, Council, the portfolio, that'd be great, a couple of links or something.
I can,
The project.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure, we'll follow up.
And again, towards Josh's point, we just recently finished getting permits for a development in Worcester at a site with a historic property.
Mhm.
And George went the extra mile talking to the city and the historical commission
Mhm.
about how to do that project in a way that was sensitive to their concerns about that particular structure and make the project work. And that, I mean, that, some of those discussions about specifically this structure and what could be done in this area.
Some developers see
Yeah.
historic properties and run the other way, so. I So, and on the other side, we hear, you know, the planning board, one thing I've learned is that for every one resident that graciously takes their time to even show up at a meeting, there's 10 others that haven't, that have the exact same concerns, so. A lot of this is unknowable how people feel, but the representative, the leverage that you both have by coming in front of the board like this is not underestimated, and it's huge, and I think it multiplies because there's other people that don't take the time to come here, so thank you for getting this.
We have several neighbors that with this with work schedules.
Right.
the fact that this
Yeah,
has been
of course.
pushed off so long. So we have a group of people that are not
Yeah.
pleased about this.
Good, thank you. Please, chief.
Chair, what's the length of the road from your driveway, we'll call it Nicholas Lane for right now, do you know what the total length is?
Oh, shoot, I don't, I can put a scale to it real quick.
I'm just really concerned, like questioning like the hydrants and whether, you know, if there's a thought process on how long is it gonna be? There's a hydrant at the corner
Yeah,
of
there-
Stevens in North
It's a-
Main that keeps getting wiped out repeatedly.
This is about 700 feet, and I think you're talking about the hydrant over here.
Yeah,
Yeah, actually, that was also in Mr. Meskis's last email saying that yeah, actually, I remember specifically now, he said that may be taken out in favor of there's a hydrant over here proposed in
hydrant
this.
there,
Yeah, and
okay.
I think, I don't know if he said getting hit, but
Oh,
he said for some reason
It
it
gets like
was.
that all the time. And is there another one on the other end of North Main?
Yes, let me find it.
Okay.
Well, we've got a hydrant proposed here.
Okay,
We've got one proposed somewhere in the middle, but I can't find it, and we've got one proposed here.
and on Olga?
We have one, let me see.
One right around the entrance of right focusing it.
Oh, yeah, right there, and one near the end.
Okay.
We knew that, you know, the
Yeah.
standard was, as in most towns, is don't get beyond don't get to 500 feet, or especially beyond with, distance between hydrants.
A little hard to pull 500 feet of hose.
But no sprinklers in the units.
No, there will be because, and this again was in Mr. Mestitz's comment, that any structure with more than 3 units
Okay.
has to be sprinkled.
Right
How
on.
many bedrooms per unit?
The majority are two beds, 2 bedrooms.
Okay.
There are some 3 bedrooms.
How many families do you plan? Or how many are you accounting for? Like, I know there's probably a number that like you have to plan
40.
for how many kids.
40 units.
Right, there's 40 units,
Yeah.
but like, I know there's a number of like. You mentioned this
There's
last spring, which is why I asked the question. You estimated how many kids per family or something like that, that was entered.
You can take this,
Oh,
it has
yeah.
a look, some of those
Yeah,
answers.
I forget the number off the top of my head, but there's a standard expectation for a 2-bedroom unit of, I'll get it wrong, but it's something like maybe it's 0.4 kids per unit in the school system.
Mhm.
It was
Yeah.
less than 1, but I forget the exact number, but
Yeah.
it's a standard.
You said
Nationwide.
0.16
Was that, oh, is that?
school children per unit.
That's low average, but
So
yeah,
where does that come from? Because when
it's-
I was on Board of Health and bedrooms
Yeah.
were 2 people per bedroom, so if you have a 3-bedroom home, the flow is
Oh,
For 6
you may,
people.
well, you may have,
elderly.
exactly.
Okay.
A brother, a
Who now all
sister.
have their grandchildren because
Mm,
Was there ever any discussion for commercial property, any mixed use, coming up with the principal GM?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
The principal difficulty would be having parking for any such use, and especially where the village district is saying, you know, don't have, you've got to have potentially a walk to front.
Mm.
On all these, you would have to have, somehow a parking, significant parking in back.
Mhm.
It just doesn't really lend itself
Yeah.
on this particular property.
Right.
To that
Okay,
use.
yeah. All right, thank you. So thank you. If we could push for the, largest walk that we can, we're probably gonna ask for a traffic study on this, especially, again, maybe not for counts, but for visibility and view lengths and turns, for this. I think it's gonna be important.
we will ask.
We will ask.
We will ask for
Yeah.
that, so I would.
You are
we will
Yeah,
be
that's
asking.
an ask, yeah.
So, is that with Graves? Graves doesn't do that. I mean, Mr. Chair, what you're really asking for, it's not the traffic
Graves-
volume generation.
Graves can review
Review sightlines.
an analysis of site
Yeah.
distance and that.
Just like, that's what
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
worried about.
Not
yeah.
counts, maybe sight lines would be a
Yeah,
better.
I feel like your peer reviewer is well equipped.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah. We can, or he'll let us know if he can't, but I'm sure he will, yeah. Creation.
And just so Mr. Chair, I think you had said, and maybe I misheard, but I think when you were talking about the drive widths, that to remove a unit.
But then I
all the
heard,
lane-
Well, no, we were talking about the
Yeah.
one unit that had the shortest driveway,
Yeah.
and by shuffling everything over, we're getting that unit essentially into the position
Yeah.
of somewhere between these two where I think it's.
Well, I just want to make sure, like,
Yeah,
because I heard. you say
yeah, I
remove a
mentioned
unit as opposed to
possibly.
shifting.
Mr. Petro has a great solution though, if the shift rate is same,
So,
solution.
so that is a little bit of two different issues. So that unit, which is what, unit
Six.
six?
Yeah.
That's the one with the shorter driveway, the shortest length, like right now, I think it's 13 feet, which we understand that's too short.
Mix up, yeah.
So I think James had indicated, not only can he shift the buildings, and it would not have to be that first building, but all of them.
Right.
But also do some slight adjustment with respect to the curvature of the drive, correct?
Mhm.
Correct.
So,
And also we would maybe not, if we needed, again, this is shown as a 16-foot wide driveway going to a 1-car garage. That's obviously wider than it needs to be.
Mhm.
If we shorten it on the side where it's getting closest to the inside of the curb, that would also actually make the distance from the garage to the curb that we're being too expansive in the width of the driveway, really.
the peer reviewer had recommended or suggested a length of 21 feet, which we respectfully feel is
Hmm.
too long.
Of
Uh,
driveway.
People
Of
have-
driveway.
People have these big SUVs,
Yeah.
right? So you're gonna, I mean, do you say you can't rent here if you have a very big vehicle and then the ends of their vehicles stick out?
Yeah.
And there's already a shortage of parking, so now even with the one,
Mm.
I'm just thinking,
That's
they're
tight.
parked out, they're both.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have an emergency vehicle coming
Yeah.
down. It just, again, it's all about safety.
Yeah,
And then
and
preventing
there's gonna be
future
two
problems.
cars in every unit.
Absolutely.
Everyone has two cars.
I can't get a car in my
Well,
garage.
one,
If you have kids, you're gonna have more.
Yeah,
one in the garage.
in the garage and then the one stuck in
And
the
what happens
driveway.
what happens when someone's teenager gets a car?
Yeah.
Is there actually a rule there saying, if you rent here, you only can have two cars that it's
Yeah.
on the lease and you
Yeah,
cannot
yeah.
park another one? Is
Right.
that, I'm
That
being
might
be
serious
correct.
about
To the
common
chair that
sense.
goes through.
Yeah.
It is common sense, and that's
Yeah.
common sense that George Markopoulos would
Yeah,
incorporate in his property management.
right. I
He
mean,
doesn't want chaos
cars
here. He
for-
wants
Yeah.
to increase the value of his,
Right.
well efficiently run.
I mean, I think, yeah, no chaos is, it's
Try to make
it's
it
tight,
seamless
it's
as
tight for that
possible.
because you've got a major chunk of property that you can't use. And then
Right,
you're
I'd rather-
squeezing everything into the edges.
Right, we want to foresee the problems and prevent them
Yeah,
up
yeah,
front. That's, it's just good, it's good
20
land planning.
A standard parking space,
Yeah.
you go to a commercial lot is
Mm.
9 by 18.
Mhm.
And so, yes, there needs to be a little bit of buffer
Yeah.
in order for a person to walk behind a
Right,
vehicle,
right.
but that's a standard, regular
Mm.
parking space in probably the majority of Massachusetts jurisdictions that have zoning,
Yeah.
that speak to a normal parking space, so and we're accommodating that, plus a little bit more. We just don't feel like every space there needs to be 21 feet in the end.
Please.
I'm sorry, as I'm looking at this and I'm realizing you have some units more on Olga Ave, right?
Mhm.
Would it be to move things away from her property even more? Couldn't you move the ones on the longest side of that rectangle, further, like furthest down Olga Lane? What if you flip flopped them to give her a little bit more privacy there? Like ran the road a little bit more along the property
Well-
line, put trees so that you're not having
Oh,
houses
and
looking.
Bring the houses
directly-
away from the property
Yes.
line, yeah.
Because it's
Hmm.
so close and you're talking 13 feet there, there's not a lot of space from there, yes,
Yeah,
but on that side.
she built, or someone built 13 feet from this line.
Yeah, they built that house.
Yeah, yeah.
1910.
It was probably all
It was a
one
horse
big
and
lot
buggy
back
back.
then, yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. What if you, on the upper, the northeast corner, you put the drive against the property line and put the.
Well,
the
the
prop-
thing,
the
the
house
thing
to
about
the
that
resident.
is if you do that, you try and make a much tighter curve.
Yeah, you
Probably
do, yeah.
uncomfortable curve
Yeah.
here, and then you have to have the traffic run all along this property
Mhm.
for all of its length.
Yeah.
So it's not as though it's a choice with no
Yeah,
downside to it.
yeah.
And we said this would be an easier curve to make if a vehicle is coming from here
Mm.
and going out to this point.
You just gave a lot of thought to the setback right on Nicholas Ave off to L Stevens, and you highlighted that in your presentation where there was like a ton of setback, it was pretty private, but it's really not private for the people that you're building around, like the people across the street look directly at it. That one spot basically gives the house across the street on that corner, that's the only person that gets privacy from this project. So I was just brainstorming an idea where maybe there's a possibility that we could give somebody a little bit more privacy where you're building around that corner,
Well,
that's all.
With all due respect.
Yeah.
I don't think the path cutting around this corner is really a good choice
Hmm.
for the driveway layout. That's.
Would you rather
that's
have
the big
cars
problem.
going back and forth or?
Have the birds there, so,
Honestly.
I understand.
Because all I can
But
picture is,
It's a trade-off, one or the other.
the driveways look so narrow and two cars get past
Is
each
there
other.
is there fencing on that?
Like if somebody's coming in.
No,
somebody
right
get
now is
around
there
it.
fencing?
Our engineer will make sure
That's
that
what we were
Yeah.
talking
there
about.
should be.
Now, all I can see with
Yeah.
that is
Oh, we could do
horns
that,
are horning, people yelling at each other because they can't get past each other.
Mhm.
They're trying to pull out and they're trying to pull in.
What Josh was just raising is maybe, we talked earlier about, fence and or trees for buffer. And I think it was, understood we were really specifically, especially talking about, that
I'm talking
property
about all of
boundary.
it.
Oh, hold on, that's what I was. That's the wrong way. Was extending, along there, to do that.
Yeah.
A while back, Mr. Berenger was about to speak and he was, beaten to the punch a couple times.
No, the only thing. Oh, the other thing, like I said, as far as the snow removal, I know you're gonna have a private contractor. Where the road is narrow, you're probably gonna have to have snow. Your thought is snow is gonna have to be taken out of there
Yeah.
because it can't go into, it's like this. Was said that the wetlands.
And the
That may be,
temptation is strong.
Yeah,
That might-
I'm not saying it's something you want in there, but it's something you people will have to think about.
Yeah.
Because the fire department can't get in or
We would put that,
Mm.
if that was an issue, we'd put that right in the plan. We could put it
Conditional.
conditionally.
yeah, because there's gonna be rubbish trucks. Probably backing in the driveway once a week or something and.
Yeah.
So you just mentioned fencing? Oh, I see, you have some, plantings already proposed there.
Yeah, I mean, the special permit gives a lot of leeway for the planning board and as representatives of butters to make these calls. This is just such a lot of units squeezed into the edges of a beautiful property there, and you can't use the best part right in the middle because it's all wetlands. And we're trying to squeeze a lot of units in. I just,
I
don't see a
mean-
lot of parking. There's a lot of opportunities for making a mistake here.
Well, I think we've gotten a lot of good feedback from both the board and the butters here, and I guess we would ask to continue to your next
Yeah,
meeting.
thank you.
I don't know if we'll have everything resolved by then, but
Right.
we'll at least do what we can and
Yeah.
maybe report back, or if it's, we may speak with Randy and if there are 10 issues and we resolve 5 and Andy
Yeah.
says, and Randy should be
Yeah.
says, maybe you should just continue, we'll
Yep, all right.
abide by that.
Good.
2 meetings of 4 meetings. 2 meetings of 4 meetings. I mean, 1 meeting or,
Yeah, 2 meetings.
do you want a
heads.
month or do you want, when is the first meeting?
Well, in all fairness to the applicant, we get into the summer months where we only have 1 meeting a month, so.
Oh.
I would try to take advantage of the opportunity of using June 4th meeting.
Okay.
Just
What-
for
what
your
is-
sake, so.
What
you
is the
know.
next meeting after that? Is it July, early July?
Yeah, it's likely we're not gonna have a second meeting in June, so then the next meeting's like sometime like towards the middle of July.
Oh, I guess, considering July 16th, she says that I'd
Yeah.
really like to be at the July 4th, even if it's just the opportunity to perhaps
I won't
bounce
be
an
here.
idea
You
on
want
some
the
issue.
16th?
I'm sorry, when is the next
June 4th.
June 4th.
June?
Okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
both July and August, we only have 1.
June 4, we'll get you on the agenda. Thank you. That's an excellent presentation. I appreciate your
No, thank you for your
introduction,
feedback.
Counselor.
Yeah, thank you.
I'll call Lee.
Can we make a motion to continue this for the June 4th?
I make a motion that we continue the villages at North Main Street to June 4th.
I second the motion.
Motion second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Passes unanimous. See you June 4th. Let us know if there's any changes in schedule.
Thank you.
If you have, you'll come. Thank you.
You can have it. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Butters, for
Thank
coming in. Thank you very much.
Oh, I got one more.
It is a pretty project, it's just that it needs to be a safe project.
And it was here for the next public hearing. Yeah, I won't be around them that week.
It will be or the 16th.
Going on vacation.
Going to the Azores.
Really?
The Azores?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The next piece of item on our agenda is Premier Trailer Leasing Site Plan application.
They request to be continued. to
Continued.
June 4th.
Make a motion that we, can I
Please.
make a motion that we continue the public hearing for Premier Trailer Leasing, for the Premier Trailer Leasing Site Plan to June 4th, 2025.
A second.
Motion second, all in favor?
I,
Aye. See them on June 4th as well. Next one, chief, fire station, substation, field change modifications.
Hopefully there's somebody on Zoom. They said that they were gonna be.
Excellent.
Yeah, did
Anybody
see
in the
from
meeting room?
You're not
Graves
attending to the
Engineering,
presentation?
they recommended the town food as a field change.
We could review this in the package. There is, the summary is, this is the foundation needs
Yeah,
blasting, ledge was encountered, right? Is that,
Yeah, there's a ledge. I know
Yeah.
you're not shocked to find ledge, but
Yeah.
they're uncovered ledge and they are having to do some blasting, main drilling and blasting. They've been hired. They did the ledge exploration last week for 2 days. They mapped it all out and it's kind of just really where they thought it was originally when they did the geotech survey, so no surprise.
Will you notify in a butter when you go to blast?
Yeah, they've already actually met,
Yeah.
me drilling that blasting, has already met with the abutters, all of the abutters about it, and then. We're, requiring them to do all of the normal regulations,
Mhm.
the notification, the signage, the fire department on site during the process and, the blasting of the horns and stuff.
yeah.
They did the pre-blast surveys already, the butters as well.
So a pre-blast survey picture recording of the abutters and existing conditions before blasting, is that what you're?
Yeah, they did that already to, the exteriors and
Yeah.
then any abutter that wanted them to come inside.
Yeah,
There
yeah,
were
yeah.
some that did not want, they
Right,
elected not to have them
Yep.
come inside, but they did the outside survey,
got it.
particularly obviously the foundations and stuff.
And who has that survey?
Main drilling and
The
blasting.
drilling company, okay. Do we get that submitted to, I mean, that's part of the package,
we don't have a copy of the survey, maybe it was submitted to Graves Engineering,
Yeah.
but I'm not certain of that.
but that would be part of the application package,
Yeah.
such a survey of before conditions. Had this come up before with blasting issues, of course, yeah. So that the changes are bubbled out on this site plan. Anything, Randy, I mean, the Graves has a good summary of this and it sounds like a good field change modification to it.
Yeah.
Is that their summary?
Just that.
Go
field change level.
to, included as a field change.
Yeah. Does it change the timeline significantly?
It's pushed us back 2 weeks,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
There's
That's not bad.
so far, 2 things have hung it up, and the blasting is one, and National Grid giving us temporary power is the other one, so. We're hoping to solve one problem tonight, and then they can start working on Monday and move forward,
Yeah.
so they can try to get caught back up.
Right? Excellent. Any discussion, any other discussion before we move to a motion? Motion?
I make a motion that we accept the modifications presented as field changes.
Motion second?
I'm seconding one.
Any discussion on this? A discussion, a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks for your patience.
Oh, you guys do a wonderful job. I will be trying to attend these meetings more often, not just for my building, but for other things. I'm just trying to work in
Yeah.
planning board,
Yeah,
select board, FinCom,
Mm.
all into my
We
calendar,
are
so.
the most fun board,
Well, I
clearly.
believe-
That was a good one right here, being a private driveway. I mean, this.
Yeah,
It's a big property. yeah.
it is,
Big
and,
development,
I have some of my concerns, but they seem to have addressed mine, but obviously that's, you guys have other concerns and stuff like that, so.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
All right,
Thank you.
thanks, chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, chief.
The next is GFA Partners LLC, a 2-year extension. They're requesting an extension to continue their special permit to keep it open until July 14th, 2026. Is that a 2-year, or they're only asking for?
Yeah, well, other than the government had, created the Permanent Extension Act to any permits that were, applications that were approved during 24 or 25 extended 2 years versus 1 year, so. They're asking just for a longer period of day. The last thing they got was a site plan application that was approved in 2024. So they do qualify, you know, for the 2-year extension. Because so it just saves them from coming
Yeah.
back to the board numerous times.
Yep. Okay, that's administrative extension to their open site plan permit.
Please make a motion.
Yeah.
Is that what- I make a motion that GFI Partners, LLC, the 241 Sturbridge Road site plan and special permits. That we, give them a 2-year approval extension to July 14th, 2026.
I second the motion.
Motion and a second, any discussion, any questions? We'll move,
241 way down towards
Yeah, the
Sturbridge on
one near
the
the
left,
service board.
yeah,
up on the hill. Okay.
across from the old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Excellent, that
I believe
passes
that's for sale
to
too.
26.
What's that?
Do they have plans on what's going in there?
Oh, we have plans in the building, but the last time I spoke to them, which was a couple of weeks ago. They're hopefully getting close to starting the tenant, but they haven't as yet, so.
Big warehouse.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's the
that's-
warehouse, it's not the,
The warehouse that
the
hasn't
tow
been
truck
built yet,
company.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
not the tow truck.
not the tow
Yeah,
truck, because
yeah.
that's for sale,
Yeah,
and they have a site plan approved too. Okay.
other piece on the agenda is a 61 chapter land, so-called chapter land for Gould Road owned by St. Mark's Coptic Orthodox Church.
And you have a copy of that, yeah, this is I guess the last large parcel they have, they want to take out of chapter land.
Is there
So
any,
they can put it up, so, yeah.
This one
is there any visual on that? I'm not familiar with that. I know some people, I heard about that through some people that live, I think, right near where it's going to take place. This building is taking place. And I was wondering what the history is on this.
Here's a map of the property, I guess we
Have they
have this.
been here before? Have they made this?
No, this motion, this activity in front of us is to take their land and release it from chapter 61B. So that it moves into a tax-paying
Well,
entity instead of
they're
a
not gonna pay
not-for-profit.
tax though, because it's.
Well, that's, I mean, they're probably planning on selling it to somebody who
Right,
will,
yeah.
and they have to pay back taxes too, so.
As a church?
No,
When-
That's right, they won't have back, that's right, they won't.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they've already sold
Yeah.
2 lots, I think.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This is the third.
this is the third lot.
So
Front
is
house.
and
there,
this is nothing about the building or
Yeah.
changing the
All this
property.
is-
It's
Oh,
just-
it is.
all we
Yeah,
have,
the town has first right of refusal.
yeah, so like when they pull it out,
Purchase the
we
Town
could
has
decide
first
if we
right of
wanted to, if we
refusal.
had a reason to buy it, if we
Yeah.
wanted to put something there. We could recommend, and then it also goes to and then we recommend to the selectmen and they can decide whether they wanna buy it, but
what's their rationale for taking it out of agriculture?
they don't need to
What's-
have a rationale, all they wanna do is sell it.
It's just
be
an
able-
apple.
So the zoning doesn't,
Yeah, no
Yeah,
zoning.
nothing changes, it
change.
just,
and
No
so there's really
use
no
change.
basis upon which these things can be refused?
No, we have the right of, we could buy it from them.
Except for that?
Yeah.
Except for that?
Yeah, they can put it in and out of chapter 61 status
Yes,
as
okay. I
as
think I'm
often as they
remembering.
want.
Yeah, trying to put a couple of
Yeah,
things together
Yeah,
from
yeah.
Yeah,
different
there's a-
things that I'm familiar with. Okay, so
I'm
that's
not an
a choice
expert on
that they're
chapter
making.
61 status, but it is
All right.
some tax relief based on farming.
Now, were they supposed to have,
Yeah.
the other question I have about that,
61A is farming, right?
were they supposed to have actually presented it to the town? For right of first refusal? I
This
mean,
is, like, this is their presentation, like, this is, they're kind of giving us, here's your notice. We legally have to let you buy it if you
But
want
the
it.
town never intended to buy
Yeah,
it?
well,
I'm
we're
assuming.
gonna, the plan will make a recommendation to the board of selectmen. You know, whether that the town should explore purchasing the property or the planning board has no wish to. It doesn't think that the town should pursue
So it's the two boards that,
purchasing the property.
like, we could say, we think this will be a perfect lot just for us to own and not get the
For
taxes
passive
on,
recreation
to have it,
or
yeah.
something.
And then the selectman could say,
That we don't have.
no,
Yep.
I guess we could actually take it to town meeting if we wanted, like, we could pursue it if there was some.
There's not really much money for that.
Yeah, say if the town was looking for a place with some ball fields or something,
Yeah.
maybe the town would
This-
consider.
This is
This
an
isn't big.
acre and a half.
This isn't, yeah, this is a house lot, this isn't big enough to do that, we do
No, I
need,
know, and it's part of
stuff, but-
wetlands too.
But they also have to pay fair market value for it, so it's not,
No,
it
no.
might be cost prohibitive, you know, town to purchase it, so.
All right, so they're assuming that the town's not going to, because they already have, sale pending signs up there.
Yeah, they have a purchase and sale agreement right here with a buyer for this property,
Right,
$82,000.
pending the
And
town's.
it has the dollar amount, so we
Yeah.
have to buy it
Yeah.
at that.
Well, I can see
I'm
that's not.
watching, I'm waiting for the big piece of recreation land to go through, because we need fields, I'm
yeah.
watching, I'm gonna,
We do need fields. They're all wetlands.
that's right.
Any other discussion on this? This is kind of an administrative thing. I think it's a smaller piece of property, but
I make a motion that we recommend to not purchase the Coptic Orthodox Church property.
I'll second the emotion.
we have a motion to accept the application to remove it from chapter 61B and not purchase it as a right of refusal for the town. Any other discussion?
Did you get that survey back? I just want to make sure all the paperwork stays together. You still have the survey or did you give it back to them?
The map.
I think I still have it.
The
You mean the,
diagram. Just the diagram of the
Let me
property.
just-
oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just make
Okay, so we
sure
have a
paperwork
motion,
stays together.
motion, a second, all in favor?
I,
Aye. Passes, thank you. Our next item on the agenda, reviewing decommissioning bond approval decision for NextEra Energy 261 North Sturbridge Road. It appears we're still waiting for Chris Nolan's
Yeah, well,
reaction.
if you look near the back there, there's a email from the next year's attorney about
Oh, that's
that the
right.
land board really only has the right to approve a decommission bond based on what is written in the bylaws, so as long as they following the zoning bylaws, it's eligible to present its decommissioning bond. Then they're doing it correctly, so they're basically waiting for the, you know, plan board to agree, that's what they're doing.
Do you know, are there any other bylaws, any other mention in our bylaws about surety bonds? This is just so happens to be a sentence in the solar energy chapter. But do the bylaws have another section about surety?
No. The only other thing we have is performance bonds, you know, or landscaping bonds. You know, we don't make any other thing about a security
Okay.
on a project. Missing, no one was looking for some guidance as a board, once we agree with that. Whatever they submit as a decommission bond will follow the zoning bylaws versus the planning board policy.
Right,
And the biggest, issue I guess they have is the 25% cash
right.
payment. They basically just don't want to do it, but
So he's reading this as it's either a cash deposit or a bond or a letter of credit.
right.
doesn't- Did we hurt ourselves by getting rid of our policy?
The policy,
That I didn't want to get rid of in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody challenged our policy, it might not hold up because we have, the bylaws,
What does the bylaw actually say? It doesn't say they have a choice, right? It just says,
well, that's where the bylaws really should be amended
Yeah.
to be more
Yeah, yeah.
specific or
Yeah,
more
we
in
should
line
write
with
it
the
in there,
policy, if that's what you
cash,
want.
cash, sure.
And, we just
Yeah.
discuss that something that in the future we get on fall
Yeah.
town
it's
meeting.
ridiculous. We shouldn't have got rid of the policy. We should have kept it. It would at least been, because that's what our standard has been in the past. We've always followed the policy in the past, but,
All right, so the second to last paragraph from Mr. Nolan's attorney. He said he believes the planning board may be relying on a 2020 board policy, which is the 25% cash. And then he goes on to say, even setting aside the fact that the board policy post dates the 2018
Hmm.
project approval. So in one hand, we didn't have any specific bylaws when this project was approved, and everybody raced in with the site plan, the subdivision control act. So on one hand, he's saying it was approved before we did the 25%. But you can't have it both ways. And I think that it is vague. I mean, that is a standard sentence on everybody's decommissioning bond. The applicant shall provide a form of surety through cash deposit bond or standby letter of credit. It doesn't say they get to choose the form of it.
Yeah.
So it's very gray.
Yeah.
Um,
That is,
we could interpret it as it's our bylaw. We don't,
what have we done? So what have we done in the past?
well. This is the other one we did this on Colburn Road and Osgood Road, we required 25%. And they, was that the one? Oh, it's in front of me. Colburn Road, and they sued us on it. Do you remember that? We were sued. It was thrown out because of a technicality, but Attorney McKay, who's pretty well versed
Yeah.
in land court, stated that it was. We thought that was fine, because we were renegotiating it, but we might not
Well,
have
we're
done the
not,
25.
we're
Yeah,
not, we're
hold
not
on.
hurting
We
their,
might not have done.
we're not hurting their program. We're not trying to keep their solar
Yeah.
away. We're trying to protect the town
Yeah.
fairly, because people walk away and then we're stuck with all these attorney fees.
Yeah.
And it's,
Yeah.
and it could suck every penny out of our budget,
right,
for,
Yeah.
with one big cake.
we're not
So
doing that.
I say we stand solid on that 25% cash, and we don't,
Absolutely.
and we do it every single time. We just do it, I mean, we have.
I agree, and we should just edit the language
Yep.
when we can. I mean, in this letter, you have a copy of this,
Yeah, I just saw that,
Yeah.
yeah.
so it says, they believe, Nextera believes the bylaw gives Nextera the choice
Mhm.
of form.
Again,
No,
attorneys have
no,
their,
no, yeah, that's,
attorneys have their
it's
opinions.
we will tell you the form of choice.
And we
require.
can add the sentence
Yeah.
that it's at the planning board's discretion. Can we do that at the fall town meeting, or you only do it at the spring? Can we do a change in the fall?
We have,
Fall town meeting, yeah,
fall town meeting,
doesn't have to, can we change bylaws
at town meeting.
at either town meeting?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
have to, have a public hearing
Yeah.
on whatever.
Just
Bylaw.
Can we
change
get
it.
that, can we get that on our agenda, so
Right.
so it is all ready and prepared for the next, just so we don't miss it for the next fall
And
meeting?
there's some other stuff.
Yeah, they will probably challenge, but
Okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
if we
another letter.
understand that the current bond problem that we have is lack of, and paper bonds, and that's a whole nother issue that we
Yeah.
were discussing earlier today, that there's no tracking of paper bonds. And they have to be redone every year. Line of credit from a lending institution, an FDIC approved institution is, I think, one step better because there's different levels of surety companies. Some are, I guess, graded on whether
Like
they're gonna be
insurance, yeah,
around.
yeah.
Yeah, good insurance company or a bad insurance company, so. I think we need to maybe have. Our town attorney has not dove into this,
Yeah,
at least
Yeah.
just have him read it and say. You can go either way, but if we shall, may, all those words.
What is
keep
the
attorneys-
safest? I think we set a standard and figure out what the safest way, the safest thing to do, and just make everybody do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And let's get a professional opinion on what
Yeah.
that safest thing is.
Yeah, I think we'd be amiss if we didn't ask town council just to review that
Yeah.
and say it is vague, but we could also interpret it our way. His attorney obviously is interpreting it to their benefit.
I mean, the average resident in Charlton, like, we could vote for it because, you know, they don't care about what so companies feel, you know,
Yeah.
as far as paying
Yeah, the
it.
town will be, I mean, it's not, it doesn't cost. It's the same, you know,
Yeah.
half a dozen six, you know what I'm saying? It's the same deal. It's just they have to front some cash to protect themselves and
Yeah.
you're protecting the town with the rest of the 75%.
They
And-
just
and for
want to
people
take
that
any
might be
money out of their
listening
pocket. That's
later,
what
And it's much harder, I hear that it's much harder to sell the projects when, when these ones are more strict. Companies, like, these are a big deal, these decommissioning bonds, that they're a liability attached
Yeah.
to the
But
project.
yeah.
so.
Our attorney is asking to get involved, so that's all we
Yeah.
need to do is
I
ask.
like that. And
And again, together.
if people are listening on a replay, a decommissioning bond, and it's just, if they don't do what they're supposed to,
Only
then we
insurance.
cash it in.
Yeah.
It's not, you don't have to cough up $700,000. In this instance, it's 658 or something.
Yep.
It's just a portion of that. And it's,
Yeah.
it's protecting our financial welfare as well as the multitude of things that might
It
come out.
also
down the
protects
road.
the,
Yeah,
not
I
only
mean-
the town, but the property owner. It protects everybody. It's.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's,
think the solar companies are just trying to invest as little money as
Yep.
possible to get.
That's
So
their
they can
shit
sell
done.
it and go.
that's what they
Yeah.
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
All right,
Yeah.
we'll ask our attorney just to give his opinion.
Yeah.
Even without it, I think we're prepared to just enforce
Well,
our.
yeah, I mean, either way,
Say it
I'll,
again, like the town
I'll-
attorney.
Yeah.
some point, schedule a public hearing.
Yeah.
For the planning board. And, you know, we'll discuss on like what revisions we want made.
Yeah.
Probably do that prior
Yeah.
to the public hearing, so we have something
Okay.
spelled out.
Yeah.
For the board
Right,
to approve at the public hearing.
yeah.
okay, and we, like I said, we never had anything like this
Yeah, yeah.
before the zoning.
Yeah.
Right.
So, you know, in that regard, the state allows towns to set their bonds on what they feel is gonna protect them.
It is also, the wordsmithing may also be an opportunity for us to separate energy storage and solar fields. I mean,
That's
right
right.
now, it's loosely in the same
Okay.
chapter.
Right.
You guys are the pros on this?
Excellent. If
Well,
we can, so I'll just ask you to follow up with this, get an
Yeah,
opinion.
we'll do.
Mr. Hennigan, please, and then, I mean, I'm prepared to go forward right now, just, it's 35% cash.
Yeah,
and-
I'm happy with that.
Yeah, and it follows the parcel like we've
Yep.
discussed.
Yep.
With
So
all
the
these
next owner,
conditions, yeah.
we don't have to chase after them.
Mhm.
Yep.
Like we do every year, checking on bonds on whether they paid their premium or not. That's for 30 of these, plus batteries, we don't have the staff to
Nope.
follow when
No.
they get sold, then to make sure the new buyer has a policy.
No.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Good discussion. We have a couple of other items on the agenda just to finish up, other business unknown at the time of posting. Maybe it's a good time to bring up the letter from our esteemed colleague Lori Degnan to review.
And just so obviously everyone knows I'm not a professional at this.
I think everybody has one, you just have a law.
I have a lot of them. Y'all have this
Yes.
letter in bold, right, tell us more about this.
Well, at the Department of Public Utilities and Energy Facilities Siting Board hearings, there were 4. Many people on the Zoom calls, like 150 people each time. It was huge. They went through each segment of this new law, voted in November, and it also has the units, the accessory dwelling units in the energy bill, the
Oh, my.
Climate Act bill, which
Yeah.
I
Because
spoke.
they know it will pass that way.
Yeah,
Yes, and I went to open forum for the selectmen, and even though I sat there reading my notes, I was so nervous, I said, it's a big law, it's 700 pages. I'm looking at 178 and I said 700, but
Yeah.
it's over 170 pages. So there was a lot in it, and based on those hearings, again, for people that don't know, the new law throws our zoning out the window. So anything, even small projects, you have to allow them everywhere. And my argument through these hearings is, we've done our part. Charlton has,
We don't even benefit from it. It doesn't like give
We get
us
very
subsidized,
little.
we don't get subsidized electric or anything from it.
No, we were sold that we were gonna make millions and no kids in our school. And it's coming down to, we are on a power line and there's land. But my argument is that the state's renewable energy goals are so, they want to be carbon neutral by 2030, I believe.
And they can't.
Well, according to their build out, they can, all on the ground, but nobody's talking about how many trees, because they do have a formula. I could go on, but what I'm saying is they're going out to central and western Mass without diving in on parking lot and building solar inside, 495. So they're going to the low
Low
fruit.
hanging fruit.
They can get more they get to their goals quicker, and developers want to do one giant project at 100 rather than
Yep.
25 megawatts. So it's pushing it even more so. So I said, and I spoke at the meeting, and then I wrote a follow-up saying something should be in there to take into account those towns already saturated with solar. And other towns, they want it here because they don't want it in their
Yeah.
town. We have lots of people that all yay for green energy, but they don't see the trees getting cut and the soil being stripped. So my argument here is towns that already provide more than their share of renewable energy should be able to to opt out and follow their own zoning. So we have 30 and we have more than enough to power our residences with the solar we have now.
Yep.
So and then someone else spoke saying, why don't we give each town an allocation on what they have to provide? Because they'll skip over a wealthier town and come to the town
Yep.
that has woods.
Mhm.
So that's all I wanted to do. Do I think it's gonna go all the way? No. But it's gonna make them think twice before they come to town and say, oh, we have 5 landowners in Charlton that want solar.
Yep.
Whereas the other 13,000 people have to live with it. So that's the basics of why I wrote this letter.
Perfect.
Just, yeah.
So.
How do we, number one, how do we, as a board, send it? And then we would ask the selectmen to do it also? Is that what you're?
Well, from what I understand, if Dawn spoke with Andrew, that I wanted to get input here and have anybody critique it. Have the selectmen look at it and approve. And then have it go to like Marcy or the state reps, because they
Yep.
have staff that know how to write proper verbiage.
Yep.
Not just me being emotional. In hopes that it gets to the governor's desk, like an amendment, not even a full act, just an amendment. We could asked for an emergency amendment, but it's not life or death, so.
Marcy, Fatman, Durant. we just-
Right, and I did say to the Energy Facility Siting Board that please weigh into your decisions on your approval on a town that's already done their share.
It would be interesting if they did present, or did they present calculations on all the towns, what they have, what percentage of population, percentage of area? You know, and those, like, the
It's
stats
not
that you're
tracked,
talking about.
unfortunately. Like 2 years ago, I asked, and I had to do a public records request, and an attorney sent me info. They needed more time. So the ISO New England, who's in charge of all the energy movement, we're in the central western. That's what they look at. And for me to cross-reference this, I'm doing this right now on an Excel spreadsheet, to cross-reference the megawatts that we have as a project with what they were approved at and what they're actually producing.
So
So
have
we'll
you-
get some more tax dollars if I can prove that this is AC. And the DC is a higher number because it hasn't gone through the
the
inverter.
calculation for, like population and all those stats. What about submitting it to one of, I mean, Nichols is close, but one of their colleges? This is a really great project in one of the, whether it's a map statistics class or if it's an environmental class, it might be worth, sharing with,
Clark Map School would be all over this. Their
Really?
mapology department, whatever you call it.
Cartography.
and there's all this new technology with, like, all this new technology with, you know, with data, Tableau and what the fancy things you can do. So you might be able to not just give it to the environmental mapping, planning, and to see if it's a project that they're willing. I mean, you could also, ask CMRPC, but it might be a good professor, like a research project that everybody has to do.
It's
So
hard where they
It might
are.
be worth kind of putting it down and sending it
That's a
out,
good
and I can
idea.
help a little bit, but again, they're always looking for projects. People, they have their finals,
Yeah, for grad school too.
Right.
Yeah, so there, I have done a quite large Excel spreadsheet to try to incorporate the project numbers that ISO uses and New England Power uses. And then versus the name of the projects, like we have one called Bus Lot, so it would assume that it's a
Bus.
canopy. The bus lot is not. And then we have Brookfield Road Solar. We have a Sturbridge. Our North Sturbridge Road Solar is through the system as Sturbridge Road Solar.
Yeah,
And trying,
Right.
and when you go to actually find the approval letter, it's very hard because
Right.
it doesn't say Charlton
Yeah,
anywhere
yeah,
on the
yeah.
search engine.
wow.
that's a
It
whole
just has-
IT discussion of.
Yeah.
what
It's
are
and
using
that's
this system.
difficult.
That's not us, that's
Right.
ISO searching.
Yeah.
And now they're restricting.
Mm.
So maybe they saw me diving into their website constantly that now
They
some
don't
of it
let you.
says restricted access
Oh,
for
my.
a solar field.
Mm.
Yet they'll have the entire substation and power line grid
Mm.
accessible.
Yeah,
It's frustrating.
let's
anyway.
move this
Yeah.
forward, Lori. Let's, why don't we, I don't wanna tie this up with the select board. Why don't we endorse this and send it
And then
and,
they can chime in.
well, why don't you write one for them and leave some signature lines and just put in front of them and let them,
Okay.
like, make it as easy as possible for everyone to move this forward. That's what I would suggest. And then we could just take a copy, if you don't mind formatting this, maybe like a letter
Sure.
from action, call to action and signatures, we could sign it
Okay.
and send it
Is
along.
there,
and then
do you wanna
just do
ask
the
Jane
same.
to do it? I don't know if there's a standard format to do, like, Jane, is there a standard
I
format thing?
Googled it. They had one honorable, well, the proper way to address.
right,
it.
Just
right,
send us
right.
the
What to
letter?
do.
Yeah,
To
well,
legislate.
you know, the parties that you wanna send it to,
Yeah.
and send it to, should probably be better on a planning board letterhead anyway.
Okay.
They come from a planning board.
Yeah, yeah.
Can you
and low,
approve it
you know,
tonight so she
town.
can send it ASAP?
So
Cause,
you,
Yeah,
yeah, give us the information of who you want the letter to go to,
okay,
and then we can make sure it's addressed to whoever that is. And then we'll have it on planning board letterhead.
and you could say at the meeting of this night,
yeah,
our
Mhm.
board approved.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
That way we
exactly.
don't have to hold up for
exactly.
2 more
Let's
weeks.
do it,
I
yeah.
won't be
Yeah,
here in 2 weeks.
that,
This
that'd
is the
be
exact
simple.
letter I gave each selectman during open forum as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, and it looks a
So-
little more official that way.
Yeah,
That's
you know,
true.
so-
Okay, I'll do that, Jen, and send it to you. And then
Thank you, Lori.
it's just, spitting in hands, but we'll see what happens.
Good, thanks for pushing it forward and keeping it going.
Oh, and again, it's just to support the town meeting vote of 2019
Mhm.
on limiting solar in our
Yeah.
zone bylaws that
Mhm.
we want to keep in place. Okay.
Thank you. Any other, new business?
The only other thing that had come up was, I had submitted an RFP, then the town administrator. I mean, I did the same way I did the zoning bylaws, or for some reason, the town administrator wanted it changed, so we submitted a revised version, so.
Yeah.
Now it's an RFQ and it's been revised, so.
Yeah.
That is what we're going to just be sending out,
Okay,
so.
is it, what are you just,
It's great to meet you. How's your?
or you just wordsmith some stuff in here, you didn't change?
Well, he works,
Yeah,
with
okay.
missing stuff in there.
That was Chat,
You
I
want
asked
something
Chat to give me a
specific?
database of
yeah,
all
did that,
solar in
So
per town.
that's
by-
the
Okay.
document,
Yeah.
just for the board's reference, if
Right.
you have any questions or anything, but
Okay,
He's our chief procurement, right?
that's what we'll be going with as far as submitting.
right. All right, good, thanks for moving that forward. Just a question, and when you were talking about like the spreadsheet, do you have access to the planning board SharePoint
No,
folder? Leonie, you probably don't
I don't
either,
have
this thing, and neither, you don't have
SharePoint?
email addresses? All right, that's the key to then getting on
Oh,
the
okay.
SharePoint, so.
Well,
Yep.
yeah, if you send something to me, I can put it on SharePoint, Dawn can also, but
okay.
I
It's
think
still,
we all can.
yeah, actually,
I don't think I've ever
everybody
been on the
can.
drive. I always call Jane to have me, her send me
I
things.
actually have to.
We can just get on with our town.
And-
I think so, yeah. I don't know what the link is, of course, now, but there is a SharePoint site that.
Yeah, you
hangs
just
off
go
of
down and
this
see the
email.
IT guy
Yeah, yeah.
downstairs.
Yeah, that's the only thing is if you use SharePoint, you have to have the,
Town
your
email.
town email. You can't use personal email on
Right.
SharePoint.
But that would be great to put your spreadsheet, this thing like the all these documents and stuff.
So I actually want to ask Kurt
Mm.
to either, I'll go with him,
Mm.
but I'm finding paperwork online that says they were approved for batteries at some of these sites.
Yeah.
And if we can add batteries
Yeah,
where
right.
our assessors don't have
Oh,
them, we can
add
get
up.
some more tax.
Add up that value.
So as it is, this is all AC.
I
I am finding that it's as
Yeah.
AC.
Yeah.
Megawatt AC, so, I told you we lose 15 to 20%.
So it's AC to,
It's DC is how it collects. And it goes through in the inverter and you lose 15 to 20% of the energy.
So which number do we want to use?
We
Use
want-
The DC number.
And that's the nameplate capacity, which is
Yeah,
how
yeah,
they
yeah,
get
yeah.
approval. So,
Right.
and I did look into the AC DC with the batteries. Well, now that they have freestanding batteries that don't have to be near solar, they come off the line in AC because alternating current is what we use in our home. It goes in as AC, it's stored as DC, and then it gets released as AC.
Yeah,
So
sure.
we could still keep our DC designation.
we can ask for storage number though?
Well, the actual amount stored
Mm.
is in
Okay.
DC. It's just,
Yep.
I think for continuity,
Is that where you get your information, the CEC website, Mass CEC?
Clean Energy Council,
Mm.
that's very much pro everything. And no, I just go to the science ones. Anything from a solar company or the Clean Energy Council is good, but they're charged with getting as much solar and
Yeah,
renewable
but
out
can
there.
they provide you the data? Like if I download all of the information from the Mass DEC, will that give you data to use?
Can't hurt.
Curious, that's what myself, it's telling me to go to Mass DEC and pull a data set and pull every single town and all the,
They have it mapped by town. That would be amazing.
ask me if
Can anyone
if
do
she
that?
wants me to pull, she wants me to pull it for me, or if I would like instructions to be pulling it myself, and if I want specific towns or all towns. Ask me. So I'll,
That's
See what we
anything,
think.
cause I'm going back and forth and in and out.
I don't know if this will be what you need, or if it's comprehensive or up to date, but we can see what we
By
can get.
town, it might help.
Excellent. Okay,
Yeah.
any other business? Any other discussion?
I move to adjourn.
Business system.
Second.
Excellent. Adjourn it is. All in favor?
Excellent job tonight.